All right, man, peace. So, Russell Westbrook of the Oklahoma City Thunder is one of the modern-day liberal sports media's favorite athletes. They love to cast him as the victim. Supposedly, Kevin Durant left him in a lurch, even though all he did was exercise his free agency rights. And now, due to the fact that it's becoming very apparent to the liberal sports media that Russell Westbrook is not a championship-level player, they're trying to concoct this new narrative for him that he should have left Oklahoma City instead of quote-unquote sticking it out there. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Sports Center right now, the Big O Magic, Jason Kidd now add Russell Westbrook to the NBA's most elite club. The Thunder superstar notched his 100th career triple-double. It came against the Hawks.
Now, look, at the end of the day, when you look back at Russell Westbrook's legacy, his legacy will be as the triple-double man. If you pay very close attention at the end of games that Oklahoma City wins, and the reporter wants to speak to Russell Westbrook, and they say, Russell, are you aware that you're the first man in history that has 40 points, 12 assists, and 12 rebounds in 4 straight games? Russell Westbrook has to consciously try to control his face from taking on that Cheshire Cat grin. Because Russell knows his niche in the NBA. He knows that he's the triple-double guy. He can't be Steph Curry. He's not going to make 8 threes a game. He's not going to be LeBron James and dominate the flow of the game. He's not Kevin Durant, who can score 27 and get 4 blocks in a game and shoot 55% from the field. That's not his niche. His niche is as the triple-double guy. His niche is as the guy who can dunk over 7-footers and yell in people's faces. And he is the modern-day Allen Iverson. He's Allen Iverson 2.0. He's going to be a guy who has a very ardent fan base, but he's never going to win a championship because he does not have championship-level DNA. He's more concerned about making sure that he glorifies himself. He's a numbers guy. That's just what he is, and there's nothing wrong with that. You need guys like that every generation because they add diversity, they add flavor to the NBA.
Last night marked the 32nd time Westbrook finished the game as the outright leader in points, rebounds, and assists. The only player in NBA history with more games of that kind is Will Chamberlain, who outright led all players in points, rebounds, and assists in 33 regular season games. For OKC to win, it needs a Westbrook triple-double. This season, the team is 16-5 when it reports 1 and 24-23 when he doesn't. He just needs 8 more triple-doubles to pass Jason Kidd, 39 to pass Magic, but he needs 82 to pass Oscar Robertson as the player with the most triple-doubles in NBA history.
And that's who Russell Westbrook is truly chasing. Just like LeBron is chasing Michael Jordan, Russell Westbrook is chasing Oscar Robertson. Because he's figured out what his niche is. Like if you watch that film Unbreakable, at the end of the movie, not to spoil it for anybody, spoiler alert for those of you who have not ever seen Unbreakable with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. But at the end of the film, Samuel L. Jackson tells Bruce Willis's character, now that we know who you are, I know who I am. Basically, Samuel L. Jackson's character was looking for meaning to his life. And once he helped Bruce Willis figure out who he was as a person and what his role was on the earth, that enabled Samuel L. Jackson to discern what his place was on the earth. And that's my point about Russell Westbrook. When he started to accumulate all these triple-doubles, he realized what his purpose was going to be in the NBA. And of course, he wants to win a championship in his conscious mind, but in his subconscious mind, he's concerned about getting those triple-doubles. There's no doubt about that. Pay attention next time you watch a game and Russell Westbrook gets a triple-double and the reporter asks him about it. Watch how he tries to contain his smile. He can't help himself. He just like triple-doubles is like crack for Russell.
Now let's get it back to First Take.
Another big night for Russ with his 100th triple-double milestone being the icing on the cake, and some will argue Westbrook doesn't get enough credit, guys, playing in a small market max.
No, actually, Russell Westbrook gets too much credit. He truly is like a force of nature. He's a player who's better off by himself. He needs a team architecture like they had last season, where you just have 4 other guys on the court who are just there to serve him, much like Iverson had back in the early 2000s in Philadelphia.
Should Westbrook have left OKC when he had the chance?
Yup, he should have. And I want to preface this by saying, Russell Westbrook is the most polarizing player I've ever seen with my own eyes to myself. In other words,
you're a schizophrenic. That's basically what you're saying. For him to polarize you within yourself, that means that you're schizophrenic and you're confused about what you're watching. There's nothing that confuses me about Russell Westbrook when I watch him. That's why I always tell you guys, Russell Westbrook is the NBA version of a great action movie. When you watch the Golden State Warriors, the Houston Rockets, a couple of other teams in the NBA, you say to yourself, that's The Godfather. That's The Godfather Part 2. That's Deer Hunter. You know, I'm watching a film that could win an Academy Award. When you watch Russell Westbrook, you say to yourself, okay, that's Predator. That's Lethal Weapon. That's Rambo First Blood. That's a great action movie. Very enjoyable to watch. I already know how it's going to end. And he certainly is not going to win an Academy Award. That's Westbrook. He has a place. Just like action movies have a place in Hollywood, Russell Westbrook has a place in the NBA. There's nothing confusing about him unless you're delusional enough to believe that he's a championship level player, and he's not. He plays great. He is not a great player.
I will see him from play to play, and I'll say, they're in the same game, I'll say, that's the best player I've ever seen. Like, that's Michael Jordan. And
that must be after you snort another line of cocaine, Max Kellerman, allegedly. And also after you've taken some hallucinogenic drugs, because you got to be out of your fucking mind to watch Russell Westbrook play and ever think that.
And in the very next play, I'll say, boy, you can't win a championship with that guy as your point guard. Like, I've never swung so wildly between two extremes.
Because the reason why you're swinging so wildly, number one, is most likely the drugs, allegedly. But number two, you're battling what you're actually seeing, which is reality, versus what you want to see, which is narrative and idealism. Because you've cast Westbrook as this throwback player. And this is a problem in the mainstream sports media. They have created this cult of personality around Russell Westbrook where they have to deny what they're actually seeing so that they can keep feeding into the fantasy that they've created in their own mind.
Watching a guy trying to gauge his value. The one thing you can say about Russell Westbrook is no fan ever got cheated showing up watching him play. His problem in the playoffs in the clutch have been that he thinks his team needs him even more. He's going to pull even harder when maybe he needs to let go of the reins a little bit.
Absolutely. You're finally catching up to what I've been saying for the longest time about Russell Westbrook. He'll actually become a better player once he loses a step, believe it or not.
And get other guys involved and trust them a little bit more. Maybe that, is a legitimate criticism.
Now, just listen to what Max Kellerman just said. We're talking about a player that averages double-digit assists, but even Max Kellerman understands that he needs to involve his teammates. So what is Max Kellerman really saying? He's saying what I've been saying for the longest time, which is that Russell Westbrook's assists are very cheap. He accumulates cheap assists, not real assists.
Criticism of him. But he should have left OKC, and the reason is this. Clay Bennett, the owner, with whom it appears that Russell has a good relationship, is cheap, period. And the OKC market is limited, period. Now, you know who's not cheap, and you know what market's not limited? The Los Angeles Lakers.
Sir, this is not 1995. In 2018, there's no such thing as a limited market. It's all about how well you draft and if you can get the players to stay based off of a promise that the future is going to be bright. OKC had a bright future, but due to the NBA salary cap, they couldn't keep all their guys. Another reason why they lost most of their top-notch players was because they didn't want to play with Westbrook. So if Westbrook was to run to another team, all it would be doing would be to delay the inevitable. Westbrook has to look in the mirror and totally deconstruct his mentality on the court and deconstruct his style of play if he hopes to ever win a championship, which at this point I don't see ever happening. Not for him.
Westbrook is from the area. Jeannie Buss will spend the money. That's a family-owned business, and the Buss family will spend the money. They will spend on luxury tax. And Magic Johnson's in charge now. And that is an unlimited market with from which you can amplify your brand. Now, if you want to, Sam Presti, Stephen A, is a great GM, but he's working within the confines that the owner gives him, the restraints that the owner gives him. The fact is, they traded James Harden, they didn't get back enough, and the reason they traded him is they didn't want to pay him.
There's no way that you could ever get back market value for James Harden. You can't trade away a kid at 20, 21 years old and think that who's going to be a potential MVP of the NBA. And think that you're going to get back market value. That's not going to happen. That's the same reason why Jerry Buss refused to trade Kobe Bryant. He broke it down to Kobe and basically stated, look, I cannot get back accurate market value for what you bring. Not just on the court, but even off the court. Merchandising is just not possible. Now, in regards to Mr. Russell Westbrook, would he even have that much allure for another team that had championship aspirations? Because if you're a GM who understands what you're watching when you watch him on the court, you know that he's not going to help your team win a championship because he's like a cyclone. He has to work alone. He can't work in tandem with anybody else. And do any other top-notch players want to actually play with him? On TV, they might say yes, but off camera, they're going to tell you no.
When you think about the nucleus that Clay Bennett, the owner, had in OKC, KD, Westbrook, Harden, and Ibaka, all in their early 20s.
Don't forget Jeff Green. They had Jeff Green, too.
And that thing got broken up with no championships to show for it. He didn't want to pay Harden. He played them cheap. Now, Westbrook has Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, and they'll do pretty well, and we all know they're not going to win a championship. And maybe he wouldn't win a championship either in L.A. But where would you rather win a championship or not win a championship? Either one. In Oklahoma City or Los Angeles for the Lakers?
That depends. Would you rather have a small pond that's all yours, or would you rather be in a big ocean that you have to share with someone else? Because they're not going to allow him to dwell on the Lakers by himself and play that one-man gang shit. He is going to have to work alongside others if he was to play for the Los Angeles Lakers.
He should have left.
You're wrong. And the biggest reason that you're wrong is because you're looking at the Los Angeles Lakers now. You're not remembering what they were like when Jim Buss was running the show. Even though you were doing afternoon drive there, the fact of the matter is that it regressed to being an absolute embarrassment and a sideshow because the Genie Buss, Jim Buss dysfunctional relationship sifted through the franchise like a virus and hurt everybody. So why should Russell Westbrook want to be a part of that, particularly when up until last year he had Kevin Durant as a teammate all of these years? Keep in mind that the only time they had missed the playoffs since 2010 was when Kevin Durant only played 27 games in the 2015 season, 2014-2015 season, because of that foot injury. He had only played in 27 games. They still went 45-37, but they missed the playoffs in the Western Conference. Had they been in the East, they probably would have been like a fourth seed at that time.
Yeah, all that is nice. All that's well and good, Stephen A. If your aunt had a penis, she'd be your uncle. I mean, let's talk about what actually happened.
If I remember correctly, but they were in the Western Conference, and because of that, they missed the playoffs. Outside of that, they've been to a few conference finals. They've been to an NBA finals. They've been in position to compete for a championship.
Yes, and isn't it interesting? Both of these so-called sports pundits are talking about if Russell Westbrook had went to the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, back in 2012, the OKC Thunder went to the NBA Finals, and Russell Westbrook had a game where he scored over 40 points in the NBA Finals. And you know what Magic Johnson said after the game? He said, Russell Westbrook played the worst game in NBA Finals history for a point guard. And this is after he scored over 40 points. So what was Magic really stating? Basically, in a nutshell, he was saying that Russell Westbrook's basketball IQ was a 0 for that game because he did not get his teammates involved. He was worried about himself. And you have to understand that when a point guard is scoring 40 points a game, that counts for far less than if your small forward is getting 40 in the game, or your power forward, or your center. Because the point guard can abuse the offense because he brings the ball up. So he doesn't have to wait for someone else to get him the ball. He can abuse the offense that way. So if your point guard is scoring 40 points, he better be shooting 50+% from the field. And oftentimes, Russell's highest scoring nights, he does not shoot 50% from the field. So that should tell you, if you understand what's going on in the game, that oftentimes he abuses the offense. He abuses the privilege that he has in bringing the ball up.
And up until last year, it was with Kevin Durant as his teammate. So, no, he should not have left. Now, if we look at the Los Angeles Lakers and we want to think about what he should have done now, keep in mind the collective bargaining agreement and what's coming to play, and the fact that he just inked a new deal in excess of 200 and I think it's around 217 million. It's either 27 or 217 million contract. So you can't get that.
But it's over 200.
I think it was over 200.
Russell should never make that face ever again in life. That face could make a motherfucker quit smoking crack. Whatever addiction you have, they just make Russell Westbrook make that face towards that addict, and I guarantee you they're going to stop. If they're a klepto, they're going to stop stealing if he make that face, because goddamn. Whew. That man really like a Ninja Turtle when he make that face.
Definitely, but it's either 207 or 217. I'm not sure though. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you can't get that in LA either. And so when you look at it from all of those different positions, I'm just saying to myself, if I've got a quality GM in Sam Presti, obviously James Harden's gone, Serge Ibaka's gone, Reggie Jackson's gone, now Kevin Durant's gone.
And what do all those guys have in common? Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, Kevin Durant. Did all those guys have a good word to say about Russell Westbrook on their way out, or did they speak the truth about Russell Westbrook?
That's not good. But all of those realities didn't really show itself until the last year and a half or so, which is why I supported Russell Westbrook staying.
I support him staying because I think that he's smart enough to understand that he can be a big fish in that fish bowl.
But when we talk about Westbrook signing the when we talk about Westbrook leaving, what we really mean is at the moment he signed the extension, because he trades away his impending free agency at that moment. He didn't sign the extension until after Jim Buss was gone, Jeannie Buss was in, and Magic was in charge.
Okay.
Yes, and please also understand that the OKC Thunder could afford to pay him the most. So really, what did he have to gain by leaving the OKC Thunder? He had an ardent fan base there. The team was his, and they could pay him the most money. Why would he leave? That would make no sense at all. As I've already stated, he's not a player that is ultimately concerned about winning championships above his own self-aggrandizement. That's very obvious. It just hasn't quite permeated the skulls of you idiots in the media, in the mainstream sports media, as of yet. But 5 years from now, you'll hear them say the same things that I'm saying right now, once they finally are forced to acquiesce to what they're seeing right before their very eyes.
Okay. He didn't sign the extension until after KD left. A great job replacing KD with Paul George. You practically couldn't do a better job than that. And yet, Paul George ain't KD.
Yeah, but if you're trying to win basketball
with
games,
KD.
Yes, and Paul George will be leaving Russell Westbrook at the end of the season also. As will Carmelo, I'm finished, Anthony.
But Magic Johnson just took over. If you're trying to win basketball games, you can't have a situation where you're going from Oklahoma City and you're a competitor to the moribund franchise that the Lakers had regressed to until Magic Johnson just came on for this season.
That's true. And has Magic Johnson ever implied or intimated that he wants Russell Westbrook on that team? I haven't heard it. I'm not saying that he hasn't, but I haven't heard it. What I remember about Magic Johnson's statements about Russell Westbrook is that, once again, he had the worst performance of any point guard in NBA Finals history. That's what Magic Johnson said point blank after, I believe it was Game 4 in the 2012 Finals. Game 3 or Game 4. One of you brothers can correct me on that.
But I think they already had enough young talent where if you add Russell Westbrook, which also affects who you draft the whole thing, if you add Russell Westbrook, you think you can catch up pretty fast, particularly with a slew of prime time.
I understand why they would want him, but why should he want them?
Well, imagine this for a second, Stephen A.
I agree. Why should Russell Westbrook want to go to the Lakers? Why should he want to go there? He already has everything in OKC. Plus, they can pay him more.
Kobe Bryant's gone, right? Who better in the NBA to come in and give LA fans what they are missing in Kobe Bryant than
LA
Russell
and the
Westbrook?
Lakers would want.
Yeah, but let's understand something. The LA Lakers are not the OKC Thunder. Even though I get on the Laker fan base because those people are they're bugged out. But they expect championships. They don't expect a guy to come out in games and score 40 points and shoot 17 of 30, 39 or 17 of 41, something like that. They accepted it from Kobe because at least with Phil Jackson, they're winning championships with Kobe and Powell. Russell Westbrook's not going to win you any championships doing that shit.
Want that. They should want that. I'm talking about what Russell Westbrook should want.
Right, but I think that given the horde of draft picks and young talent there, Magic Johnson plus cap space, it's reasonable to conclude if you're Westbrook, if I go to that team, that's also maybe attracts another free agent, we're going to be very good, very fast, and furthermore.
That's speculative, because as I've already stated, I don't believe that other superstars want to play with Westbrook. And I think that fact is going to become more and more glaring as Sam Presti becomes increasingly unable to pull off these magical, mystical trades.
his brand would be amplified. Could you imagine Lakers fans missing Kobe Bryant getting a triple-double from a guy who plays the game harder than anyone?
Why would you be confident in your ability to attract somebody considering the dysfunctional environment that existed, not to mention the fact that Kevin Durant just left you?
Well, because Kevin Durant and Westbrook didn't get along perfectly, maybe because Durant's the better player and Westbrook's the alpha personality. Westbrook and Paul George seem to get along just fine.
Allegedly. Paul George seems to get along with Russell Westbrook because what else is he going to do? He has to spend his year there, and afterwards he knows where he's going to go. So why would he rock the boat when he's only there for one season? That doesn't make any sense.
Because the personalities also fit the talent level. But I think there are plenty of players in the NBA who'd love to play with Russell Westbrook, particularly in this Lakers environment.
Name some, sir.
Environment.
You have to trust that the organization's going to be able to do something for you. And until Magic arrived, you couldn't trust the Lakers. You just couldn't.
Well, maybe Magic doesn't trust Westbrook. You guys are just putting Westbrook into Magic's mouth as if Magic Johnson has ever stated that he certainly wants him. I don't believe that Magic wants Westbrook. I think that if Westbrook were a free agent this year and Magic had the opportunity, he would sign Westbrook if there was no one else to sign, if there were not other players with a higher basketball IQ that he could sign. The fact of the matter is that you don't have many basketball players playing today that have a particularly high basketball IQ. You have LeBron, you have Chris Paul, maybe a couple others. As far as impact, you have Steph Curry, maybe a Damian Lillard. If you're Magic Johnson, would you sign Damian Lillard or would you sign Russell Westbrook? I would sign Damian Lillard because I think that the things that you would want Damian to improve upon, you can instruct him. You would have to totally revamp Russell Westbrook's mindset, and that would take away a lot of his potency as a player.
Gotta be the last word since coming in.
But anyway, yes, that will be the last word for me as well. We'll see what happens with Russell. I think that people will be able to understand what he is as the years go along. It's like when a rookie comes into the NBA and averages 17 a game, everybody says, oh, he's going to be a superstar in 3 years. You don't know that. In 3 or 4 years, he might be the same guy averaging 17, 18 a game. Look at Blake Griffin when he first came into the NBA. Everyone claimed he was going to be the next great player. He's ended up just being a very good player. Russell Westbrook, as the years go by, people are going to understand what he is. He's the modern day Allen Iverson. Plays great, but he is not a great player. I'll give you an example. Carmelo Anthony played with Allen Iverson in Denver. Iverson put up great numbers there. But it wasn't until Chauncey Billups came to the Denver Nuggets that Chauncey helped lead that team to a conference finals appearance and actually won 2 games against the LA Lakers. Chauncey Billups is a championship type player. Allen Iverson is a cumulative stats type player. Big difference. But anyway, peace.